Welcome to this Cycling Life Leadership Bytes. Today we're going to talk about a special topic, which is leadership. Numerous studies actually have demonstrated that athletes score higher than non-athletes in overall leadership skills, and particularly into indicators of effective leadership, which is leading self and leading others. So that's what we're going to be talking about. And we're going to be joined today by Bernard Moerman. Bernard is living in Belgium, and he's had a long experience working with top talent for more than 2 decades. Bernard ran what was called the Cycling Centre, which was a talent development centre here in Belgium. And over that period, he worked with almost 1,000 young aspiring athletes. Now, the unique thing, of course, with that was that although some of those athletes went on to pro careers, many did not and returned to what we might call a normal life. However, what Bernard has discovered over the years is that of those people who we could say failed to become professional athletes, they actually thrived in many, many fields of endeavour after their experience in sport. So perhaps, Bernard, you can say a few words to introduce yourself, elaborate a little bit on what I've mentioned, and then we'll jump right into the questions.
Thank you, Jamie. Hello, all of you. Yes, I am a coach, and today I'm more a transformation coach and a storyteller. And what you were saying about those athletes I trained, you're so right about the fact that when I look back at it, a lot of guys that did not become a cyclist were or are successful in their lives. And that drew my attention, and I did a lot of study about that. And there's, quite some explainable reasons why those guys got so successful, although they did not become cyclists.
Bernard, maybe you can talk to us about what you've experienced over the course of your interactions with so many of these people, in terms of what you feel that they learned as an athlete that then helped them to thrive in other aspects of their careers and their lives after sport.
Mm-hmm. If I would need to name one thing, I would say accountability, because they come in a sport and it's what you do. So everybody looks at the result. Nobody looks at how you got there. They look at the result. So soon enough, they discover that it is about what they do in the week to perform in the weekend, and that's how they get measured. So if I would say that by playing in the beginning when they're young, they learn what it is to do the right things in order to get the result. So they learn to be accountable for themselves, even before they even are aware that that is a major factor in their future life.
And when you say accountable for themselves, I mean, I guess certainly when you think of a sport like cycling, there is that rush of competition, the excitement of being in a race, and often having people who care about you watching you in the race. That is often a kick. But of course, a lot of what you do as a cyclist is not during competition, it's during training when no one is watching. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, that's where you build the character, huh? You get the results by doing what you have to do, and nobody is watching you, so nobody is correcting you, but you need to do it. Otherwise, you don't get the result. So that's the hard part. It's always easier if people are around you to stimulate you all the time. But as an athlete, and for sure as a cyclist, the stimulation needs to come from within yourself. And that is a hard part, especially when you're young, and even more so when you're far away from home. Then you might have homesickness or other things that are buzzing into your mind. But staying focused and doing what you need to do is required, for sure. And that's what they all learn. Those guys all learn that it's about what they do when nobody is watching.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about goal setting? Because again, in sport, what we are doing is always looking forward to the next event, the next competition. How does that ability or, I guess, focus help people later on in their careers?
Well, that's another thing they learn in the time they were here, so to speak, and you see them develop, because first of all, obviously, they shoot for the moon, which isn't bad, but that's a too far shot. You got to have intermediate goals that are easier to reach, so to speak, or reachable. So they learn to put steps in their goal setting. That's the first thing. And then the other thing is, again, when you set your goals, no matter how big or small they are, that you really are accountable again to reach them. So you need to make sure that you are setting goals that are just a little bit above your comfort zone. So that there is a little, I may not say fear of failure, but that you're not sure you're going to get there, but that's how you get better. And what they learn is not having one big goal. I want to be professional, or I want to be in EOS team, so to speak, but that they, yeah, maybe that's nice that you want to get there, but there are other steps, other goals in between that you need to reach. So in the goal setting, they learn to work step by step.
Yeah. Can you also talk a little bit about setbacks or failure? I mean, as we know, you work with close to 1,000 people over the course of your experience with the Cycling Center. And I think you once mentioned to me the actual numbers. I mean, I can't recall exactly what they were, but of 100 foreign cyclists who came into Belgium, how many of them actually made it to a pro contract?
Well, to be exact, I worked with a little over 900 guys, specifically in cycling. I did some other stuff in other sports. But of those 900, I think it's 16 or 17 that made it to the pro ranks, which is still a very good average. If you think that here in Belgium, it's about 1.5% that starts riding their bike that becomes a professional. So yeah, it is. I think it's still a nice figure. And what was the other part of your question? Sorry.
Well, I guess then it relates to acknowledging that, or accepting that you haven't made it. So how does that experience then? I guess because you could say that people say that they failed. They haven't made their goal.
Well,
so you could say that could negatively impact someone, but I guess the conversations we've had, you've talked about how actually that experience of failing in cycling is often just the beginning of something else to come. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, you're right about the idea of failing, but what I discovered, it is more the people around them. They start looking as they failed. Where for a lot of the guys, at least I helped them to think about it that way, that they learned about themselves. So that could still be a foundation to move on with their later life, because there's a lot of stuff that you need in any type of profession and any type of job. But obviously in cycling, you can have the setbacks of crashing or something like that, or just see that, for example, your motor is just not big enough. And then you're not failing when you start to understand that. Then you just need to refocus, but keep in mind what you learn through your cycling. And then I think it is even a gift almost that you know, at least for some parts of your life, your limits. So you can go from your limits. A lot of times people don't know their limits, and that's where they make mistakes.
So then when has someone failed? And I mean, I guess, if you go into a race, as I often do, winning is actually quite a rarity. However, when I race, if I don't get on the podium, I never really consider it as a loss as such, as long as I feel that I've got something out of that event, or I've learned, or I've done my best. How do you think about that difference between winning and losing?
For me, as soon as I work with people, I tell them there's 4 levels. So you can win. I don't think that needs a lot of explanation. Then you can not win, you can lose, or you can fail. So the winner, that's easy. That's the guy that crosses the line first. Not winning means you were in a position to win, but because of circumstances, maybe not enough fitness, maybe a mechanical or something, you did not win, but you learned a lot, and you can take that with you. Once you come in the next situation to win, you can use those things. So for me, that is not winning. The third one is losing, meaning you did not win, but you blame the not winning on something else, not you. So it was because of this or because of that. No, there's always part of you why you didn't win. And that's when you start to lose. Like I said, the third part, you blame others. You don't learn. You don't learn about what you need to do better. And failing, those are the guys that are on the side, not even doing the competition, but telling everybody how much mistakes somebody else makes and how you should do it. To me, you have those guys too in a race, like, oh, they needed to be like this and that, and they're never anywhere. They're never anywhere in the winning zone. So for me, that is failing. So not winning does not mean you were a loser, or that doesn't mean you're failing, as long as you're learning. And if you continue to learn, most probably the day comes that you will win.
Yeah. So I guess, we've talked about accountability. We've talked about resilience, getting up when you've been knocked down. We've talked about this ability to set goals and to look forward. And of course, this understanding, I guess, of growth, right? Because if you look at every experience like that as an opportunity to learn, then you never really lose. How about, I guess, at the deeper kind of, how do I put it, like the deeper level of analyzing situations? Because there's also an aspect, of course, to cycling, which is very much about reading the race, about understanding the moves, following the right moves. If you're a sprinter, in a way that very fast game of chess that happens in the last 200 or 300 meters. In your experience, how does that experience of competing as an athlete help people to think about context, to think about how to respond in different situations?
For me, the basic there is honesty. Honesty with yourself. So you see things. And if you're honest with yourself, you have a better realization of what exactly happened. Or when you get the feedback, then you're not instantly defending yourself, but you're using it in the better for next time. Yeah. So being very honest helps you a lot on your learning curve. And there is, like you said, in a sprint, you can go 1,000,000 times into the same sprint, and it's every time a different sprint. So every time you learn a little bit. And yeah, some people learn a little bit faster than others, or maybe just certain situations go into your memory harder, so you learn better. But as long as you're very honest with yourself and you're open to listen to the feedback of your teammates or of the director or even people that were watching you from the side, when you can bring those things together, then your experience level will go up way faster than if you're just blaming whatever that you didn't win or that somebody did cut your way or something like that.
Yeah. And how about this aspect? I mean, you mentioned this ability to listen to and work with others, because it's an interesting fact that, I mean, many of course, the riders that came to you in the cycling center in Belgium were coming from the US, from Canada, from Australia. They came in a way as an individual. And in many ways, people looking at cycling could say, oh, well, cycling is kind of a very individual sport, particularly at that level where you may not yet be in a very structured professional team. What do you think that the experience of competition did teach people about teamwork and collaboration?
Well, you're right about the fact that we all think that cycling is about the guy that gets over the line first, which is true. But all those guys will tell you right away that they need a team to get them in the position to get over the line first. And for sure, when you come from a total different world, so to speak, total different culture, you need other people. You soon enough discover that you need other people to find your way, even in the daily stuff. I remember Americans coming here and not understanding that not all shops were open 24 hours, but just think how much that plays in your head all day. So you need others to help you. And in the race, it's the same thing. And you soon learn that you can help each other and you can still get better by helping others. So And then again, it's about honesty. Are you good enough that day? Are you fit? Are you strong to communicate that with your teammates? Because if you do that, if you give honesty, you will get honesty back. Meaning the day that you're ready to win, they will help you to win in order that you help them to win. So really, it's even more than teamwork. It's also a certain camaraderie based on an honest communication with each other. And that's what those guys learn. And then when they go in their business life, they use that. And it's not a wonder thing. It's not a miracle. It happens with everybody because that's how we're all humans. We're all wired that way.
Great, great. I mean, it's been wonderful hearing from you, Bernard. And of course, as part of this cycling life, you've actually been reaching out to and interviewing some of the characters who you worked with 15 years ago, some of them even longer. And it's been amazing for me to listen to those interviews of you going back and speaking to these people who were athletes, who did try to make it as professional athletes, didn't do that, but then went on to do really incredible things, entrepreneurs, surgeons, a pilot who you spoke to recently. So certainly do encourage our listeners to go away and listen to some of those interviews, which really elaborate on many of the topics we're talking about here. And now, of course, the other thing, of course, I should mention is, as Australians and Belgian, we use this word guys. However, of course, when we use the term guys, we're being very inclusive because guys are for us men and women. So the lessons we've been talking about here are certainly just not for the masculine side of life. They're equally relevant for women. And of course, as part of TCL, we also have interviewed some current professional, former professional female athletes as well. So Bernard Moerman, thank you very much for your time. For our listeners, if you have enjoyed this video, please do give us the thumbs up. Of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of This Cycling Life Leadership Bytes.
Okay. All of you have a great day. Bye.